Three sets, one specifically to China, one to India, and then just a general. So to China, a lot of them are no news, but I think we think they're still valid nevertheless. The one is the whole idea about finding a way to develop long-term personal relationship by specialization of diplomats and officers. So the idea that you meet on the other side a system that is based on Guanxi and others to overcome mistrust, and so to respond to that with those relationships. Provide EU expertise on non-traditional security challenges as a new area to collaborate where there is also less resistance. We found out that traditional security is very much a top-down approach. It is the regimes are set, the rules are set, and basically it's like a take it or leave it approach. While the non-traditional security area offers more opportunity to, okay, we're both learning, we're both finding, so it's a bit of more of an equal standing. And provide the platform for discussion, which the EU can actually really provide with its resources. Develop capacity to understand Chinese diplomacy and Xi Jinping, and there was the idea to pioneer a core group on strategic thinking within core states in the EU. So not across the whole EU, but to see like who actually matters, particularly against the background that we thought it seems that European diplomatic capacities are completely absorbed by ad hoc crises. The Ukraine, ISIS, we had Ebola, and that actually these major shifts in international relations that are taking place are seen in the news, but not really, there isn't the capacity to take them up. And that is why we want to discuss that here, because we think that a lot of that kind of backup office thinking will probably happen outside of the ministries or in cooperation, but I guess they are quite, even the planning stuff is pretty busy with ad hoc crisis management. So act as a bridge to Europe, that particularly went for the UK. That was always pushed forwards, but that particularly UK and Germany could push for dialogues on non-traditional security due to their capacity, their knowledge, and the resources. To continue engaging Chinese counterparts on export controls, so that's what BAFA is doing, just to increasingly doing this, and then finally to increase peacekeeping training officers. On the India side, also the expertise on NTS. Same thing, India particularly was requested information on terrorism strategies, on natural disaster relief, because these two are the most pressing, particularly vis-a-vis Pakistan, and particularly being hit by so many floods. Need for technology and investment, so there's the plan to increase ownership of foreign investments to make the defense sector more attractive. So the question is like to what extent we can further that from our side. That is the Modi wish. So far as you know, he still wants to do it to 49%. That will not really make a big difference until you reach 72%, when you can actually change the managerial practices. Probably nothing will change. The question is like how to push for that. German diplomats should be on long-term postings, because the personal connections are increasingly important, at least in the region, so that they at least probably be in the region more. And then on the peacekeeping side, the approach to the COMPK, open access to armed forces commanders from different countries, and export controls to provide training, best practices of international standards for customs services, demand for high technology for companies and government research agencies will probably drive that. So that is something to build onto. And in general, as for the comparison between EU and member states, so on the EU level, really, we thought like this, there could be a push for EU frameworks. The EU provides general strategy templates and frameworks for harmonizations, and also there could be a push on the EU level to pool resources in times where resources are bound by ad hoc crisis, which is now and probably for the time being forever. Push for further coordination and exchanges. Sure, no news, but somehow we need to find a way that this actually will happen. As we know, it doesn't really happen, and also as there's so many coordination taking place all the time, it's also a matter of resources, right? Like you can only coordinate with so many people. Finally, to build trust through engaging China and India as strategic partners in those areas, and then finally to look about the Atlantic and to say what could actually be a division of task. We explicitly did not call it division of labor, but it's more because it's not like, you know, the US does this big thing, we just do all this, but really to be more on a fine-tuning to say where could we make a division of tasks as we share a lot of the same interests. And I say that against the background that, of course, Obama, for example, at its speak in Brisbane, made it very clear that the US and Australia belong to the new world and they don't have the baggage of the old world, and I think that made very clear that they look a completely different way. But still, as Michito Tsuruoka wrote in a recent paper, the European NATO partners might be those who are the most capable with the same interests and values, although that has been a bit overstretched, but there might be good reason to continue working on how can we divide task despite benign neglect on both sides of the oceans. That would be our recommendation so far.